My name is Sandeep, and I'm here with Ronnie. Ronnie's had a great history in building companies in India. And I think the reason why we wanted to have this discussion was we're all building these companies with some goal of creating value. Now, and actually, if I think about what the topic here is, it's less about the concept of exit. It's more about the concept of value unlocking.
Value creation and unlocking, I think, has to come from the very first day one. You need to first build value, and only then can you unlock value. Because at the end of the day, when you're raising money, you first have to have an agenda. And you're selling your agenda. So how can you possibly have somebody else driving an agenda, whereas you formed your plan, your vision, your mission, and went out, got somebody to back that, and then you're moving along. And if you can communicate fairly and squarely at all times, the good and the bad, then you're going to have a different kind of a buying from people. And that's the beginning of value creation in some sense.
I think the fact that we focused on the brand a lot gave us disproportionate value. You know, the way we looked, the way we talked about ourselves, the way we did content, the way we associated with other significant brands in the UK, that just got us extra mileage.
Today you sit down as an investor, someone comes in, talks about their business, talks about what they're looking at doing. I think you have to believe that they're going to start to create some value. You have to believe that they're going to execute the things that they're going to do. But at the same time, you're thinking, how am I going to get out? Because ultimately, that's the game.
An exit is about timing. It is about getting some sense of a timing right. And this timing is not when the stock market is 25,000, or the timing is not when suddenly there's a herd mentality. I'm not talking about those very evident timings. It's the timing in your life of your company. And I find, looking at it from the outside, a little bit scary when I'm talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, where everyone is just talking about scale. And it's at scale at whatever cost. And I think that's the scary part, because then it becomes a bad word.
Actually, that brings me to another point of, there's this question about, do I want to be bought or should I be sold?
So I think the exit is about first what is right for the company. And if you go with that thought process, chances are it'll be a win-win situation all around. The second one is what is right for the people. Because at the end of the day, you have created an organization with people. And what is right for the entire people there for the next level of journey. If you can look at the four ingredients of what's right for the shareholders, what's right for the employees, what's right for the company and its growth path, and what's right for you as the founder, that's a good place to start.
This may be, maybe self-serving, but I do think having an independent advisor when you're selling a company helps, just to help you navigate through these different situations.
You know anyone?
I'll give you a good example. So, take the case of a company who's selling itself to the competitor. You're probably going to get the highest value synergies if your competitor cuts out some of your admin staff. But your admin staff has been with you ever since you founded the business. So we see the promoters struggling with, situations like this, when situations like this turn up. So I do think at some level, being sold probably maximizes value versus being bought and, protecting all your stakeholders.
I think I've also seen that it's important to, the changes you want to make, it's better to drive those through quickly. We kind of take this approach that we want to be nice and we want to be friendly and we want to work it through slowly. I think it's better to kind of rip the band-aid off, if you will.
The first thing that I'd probably tell an acquirer is to try and maintain the culture of the company that's being acquired. I think culture is kind of key.
I don't know what the room thinks here, but I don't know why we always look at exits as selling the baby. It's really about giving your daughter's hand in marriage to somebody else. And if you look at it from that perspective, it's not all bad. Because firstly, if you really, really care about the company that you built, you are first going to see that it's going in the right hands. And therefore, obviously the fit has to be that that person, either as a financial investor or mostly a strategic investor, is going to be able to take it to the next level.
When the markets are hot, it's self-evident. Markets are hot, right? So people are knocking on the door now. Exits are on everyone's mind. I can tell you as an investor in some later stage companies from our first fund, it's on my mind. So what is it you're seeing? What is it that you're doing? How are you seeing companies prepare for this? And some thoughts around that.
It is market dependent, and markets like these do catalyze a lot of discussions around exits for, or even companies who are sitting on, certain non-core businesses which they want to get out of. We are seeing a lot more momentum on those types of discussions right now.
So let's talk a little bit about the other approach, the IPO. And as you mentioned, IPO is really just another financing activity. How do you divide the options?
I think we're almost 90% of this room. If I haven't understood what everyone's business is, I think in the Indian context, they're non-listable businesses. They have no business to be listed for at least another decade. There isn't that kind of maturity in analysts and investors in this country to understand a lot of what we are doing here. And I don't mean that derogatory there or our ability to communicate. It's a different world, different understanding. When you're building customer focus and you're building for the future, that hasn't been the DNA in manufacturing industry and in service sectors for a long, long period of time. So it will take a lot of the ecosystem to understand the future. Second, this is not, a $15 trillion market where whatever you do, and if it's a really good idea and you execute well, you will find some market segment here. So I think it's a tough thing to decide to actually list because you need a lot of maturity. And I think when you're wearing the entrepreneur hat on is whether you can support that thought process.
It's hilarious. Right now in the travel space, as ClearTrip, one of the interesting points has been, we're cheering for MakeMyTrip. I mean, their numbers go up, their market cap goes up. As a private company, my value has just gone up about 40%. Your thoughts on this are very interesting because the question is a lot about how open should you be.
With the caveat that MakeMyTrip is on NASDAQ and not on the Bombay Stock Exchange.
Okay, let's talk about that then. So does NASDAQ versus this make a difference here? In your conversation, take that same?
I think the maturity, if you can withstand and go through the scrutiny and bear the quarterly costs of being listed on the US Stock Exchange and then go through the reporting rigor that goes with that thought process at a scale at which you are in, at least that's a better prospect because you're working in an environment where people understand the business that you're in a little bit better.
So I want to hit one last topic, which is personal liquidity in this situation. This is, the exits come, you've been working for 6, 7, 8 years, you're slogging away, you haven't had a paycheck in a while at various points in time, your family's never seen you, all of these are played on it. Now, the exit's coming, the guy buying you, let's assume the acquisition, wants you committed for the next 10 years. And you're sitting there saying, great, but fine, I want some liquidity.
I think there's no other way but to have that conversation. There's absolutely no other way but to have that conversation. Because obviously I need to reward him or her for having achieved it at this level, but not completely, because otherwise that's my only sort of card to sort of look at the 5 years. And if he's been drawing 1 lakh and his market value is 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs or 15 lakhs per month, then I need to compensate him because now he's in a larger structure, so he can't feel that I'm underplayed when he's having a board meeting or a committee meeting with 9 other people and he's the cheapest guy in the room, because now he doesn't need to feel that way. But you're absolutely privileged to feel you're the cheapest paid guy in the room because I own the company. But when you don't own the company, there is no thrill in saying I'm the cheapest guy.
I'll tell you from a financial community standpoint, I think the nice thing today which India has, which probably didn't have 10 years ago, is you have a bunch of guys who are willing to do secondary in private rounds. Financial investors will come in and say, yeah, you can do some secondary. It's fine.
My personal view is if you're investing money to buy the company and it's only with one person that you're doing the payout while you're expecting everyone, you might as well not make that, because that money is a zero-sum game. You have to do it for the plurality.
Great. Listen, right, thank you. It's been great. I think hopefully the next time we sit down, there'll be a bunch of exits in this room, a bunch of value unlocked, and we'll have a lot more discussion about how that went. And I'd just like to thank everyone for spending the afternoon with us as well.